Hello, my name is Dominique Dugros. I'm a 55-year-old French Charles Chaplin fan. I've discovered Chaplin's short films on French television when I was about 8 or 10 years old. At the same time, I discovered also Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton, Hal Lloyd, but I don't know why, but Chaplin who stuck in my mind. I remember that back then, 45 years ago, there was only television. That meant no VCRs, let alone DVDs or Blu-rays, and let's not talk about the internet. Which meant that a memorable figure or image was only seen once, no replay. That is how powerful the shallow images I saw as a child were. From then on, I started collecting everything I could find on Charles Chaplin, which is to say very little. TV magazine clippings, newspaper articles, postcards, and a few books. The first book I read was Histoire de ma vie, the 1981 French reprint of my autobiography, Charles Chaplin's memoirs, written, published 60 years ago this year. This French edition was given to me by my parents, who immediately understood my passion for Chaplin. I cannot thank them enough for that. At the age of 13, I still didn't have enough distance to tell the difference between the first 13 chapters of the book and the rest of the autobiography. The difference is so clear that these first 13 chapters were subsequently published on their own in several languages, a case I suppose unique in the history of book reprints. The title was My Early Years. What I remember very well, however, are the technical cinematographic terms that were totally unfamiliar to me, particularly in the expression of Monsieur Verdoux, for instance, fade to black, fade in, fade out, etc. I remember looking up the meaning of these terms in my family's dictionary, to no avail. I had to wait for the internet to get the meaning and the translation. Later, as a student, I moved to a big city, where there were antique book markets and second-hand bookshops. I enriched my collection of magazines, books, and other items. One day, in 1997 in Hollywood, I met an American Chaplin fan who explained to me that she had set herself the goal of collecting all the different editions of books written by and about Chaplin. An impossible task, which she abandoned after a few years. For lack of financial means, I knew I couldn't buy everything about Chaplin: postcards, magazines, photos, autographs, film posters, books, stamps, etc., etc., etc. So I chose to concentrate on books. The main reason was that, by definition, books are a source of knowledge, and to take an interest in Chaplin by reading the books, the works that have been and are still being written about him, is not just to know the story of a man, or even a character, in this case the Trump. It's about knowing the history of several generations, from late Victorian London to the first 3/4 of the 20th century, including 2 world wars, the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, the Cold War, and McCarthyism. To take an interest in Chaplin is also to learn about those who left their mark on the history of the arts and entertainment in his time. Little Teach, Marceline, Fred Carnot, High Lauder, Sam Laurel, Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, Max Linder, Sergei Eisenstein, George Bernard Shaw, Anna Pavlova, Václav Dzerzhinsky, Igor Stravinsky, Clara Skill, Salvador Dali, Jacques Prévert, Circusny, to name but a few. It is also learning about those who left their mark on the political history of the era. Ramsay MacDonald, Lloyd George, Winston Churchill, Lady Astor, Mahatma Gandhi, F.D. Roosevelt, Lord Mountbatten, Nehru and his daughter Indira Gandhi, Zhou Enlai, René Coty, and so on. This political history is reflected in several of Chaplin's feature films, the two World Wars in Monsieur Verdoux and in The Great Dictator. Taylorization and over-industrialization in modern times. The race to the atomic bomb in Monsieur Verdoux. The Cold War and McCarthyism in A King in New York. In this choice of man above all, Chaplin clearly expresses the humanism that inhabited him from the start, and which would guide his choices throughout this life. Returning to the subject of this short presentation, books, it is clear that the aim of collecting is, of course, to read the books I buy. I can do this in French, English, Spanish, and Italian. I hope one day to learn other languages, notably Japanese, German, and Russian. As there are many authors in Chaplin's bibliography who have not been translated. And there is Portuguese. Thanks to my knowledge of Spanish and to our shared Latin roots, I'm able to read the language. That is why I recommend the books written about Charles Chaplin by Everton Luís Sanches. His books are not banal Chaplin biographies. On the contrary, they focus on humanism that characterizes Chaplin, both in his work and in his life. Watch Charles Chaplin's films and read Chaplin books written by Everton Luís Sanches. Thanks for listening.